So first, can I ask your name?
My name is Luis Averbuch.
Now, how old are you?
I'm 31 years old.
So when did you start working in the Breaking Silence?
I started to work in the organization itself. I started 1 year ago. But I already knew the organization from before, and I already participated in some mainly educational projects. And I always felt very connected with this idea of working with activism, political activism. And then the life connected between me and the organization, and I happily started working here last February.
I see. So you mentioned you from the Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so but you were born in Israel.
No, I was born in Brazil.
Brazil.
But I'm from a Jewish family.
I see. So
and I grew in Brazil. I grew very, very much deeply connected with the Jewish community. Very, how to say, that the issue of Jewish identity was very important to me and to my family. And we have this very strong connection with Israel. Like I grew up studying in a Jewish school, participating in synagogue events. I also was kind of traditional religious in the sense, and the main part I would say that I was a member of a youth movement, Zionist Socialist Youth Movement, and the youth movement had a huge impact in my life because I felt this connection with Israel got really strong, and through the youth movement I came to Israel for the first time in 2011. I was 18 years old, and I participated I joined a gap year program where I came to Israel. I studied and I worked here, knew all the places, all the country, and I instantly felt in love because I already arrived very connected and loving this place so much, and then a few years later I decided that I wanted to come back to live here, and that's what I did.
So now you have living in Israel over 10 years.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
I see.
Few months. 2 months from now will be 10 years.
I see. So when was you working in the IDF?
I drafted in the same year that I arrived. I arrived in March 2014. In December, I was already in the army. So took a few months. I studied Hebrew. I started to work, and then started to serve in the army.
At that time, you didn't feel, how can I say, I don't go to IDF or something, just willing to join the military or something.
So in the beginning, I already arrived in Israel very critical of the occupation. Like in the youth movement, we talked a lot about the occupation because it's a very one of the ideas of the youth movement is to create this young Jew that is very politicized, that understand politics and kind of wants to be activist, wants to be leadership, also in the for the Jewish community, but also being the idea of coming to Israel and being an activist here. So we kind of understood that the situation exists here, that we had a lot of wars in the past, that we have a very strong army, that we must keep it strong and we must do what we do because of the security issues. And unfortunately, we have the situation and we control the Palestinian territories. So in our minds it was something like, okay, it's bad, it's a problem, but it's something that it happens. We do what we have to do. And so I arrived knowing that we have this bad situation, but from Brazil is so far away, it's very hard to really understand how it looks, right? It's really hard to understand how is the daily life under occupation, what it means to be a soldier, what it means to be a Palestinian living under this condition. So even though in my mind I was a two-stater, I wanted peace, I wanted diplomacy and agreement, it was important to me also to serve in the army. So we have these two weights on the to balance between them, and my motivation was to give from myself to Israel to protect the country, to protect the citizens. You know, the Jewish people, we have a very big trauma, a lot of traumas in our history, right? We kind of a very traumatized people. And I was also very proud because I was the first one in my family joining the IDF. So it was kind of very symbolic. But during my service, I found a huge gap between my expectations and what I was really doing on the field. So I started to question myself, how we know that this is the house we must enter? Why we are waking up this family in the middle of the night if we don't found nothing? If they seem just like regular people, why we're stopping them? And these questions started to bother me a lot. I couldn't understand a lot of what was the real objectives of some stuff that we did, and I wanted to do something about it, because I understood that for the Israelis who grown up here, it was so much normalized, everything that happens in the army, because all their lives they are being prepared for it, and they heard from their friends and from their families. Everybody here serves in the army, but not everybody is aware of how it really works on the West Bank or in Gaza, or how on the ground, how much. How it really works. So after all these questions in my service and everything we did, I found that mainly as a citizen, a taxpayer, reserve duties. I also do reserve duty. So I have the right to ask these questions, and I have the right to answers also. And that was what kind of motivated to go against the occupation, to fight against the occupation, because I believe that for the Palestinians is of course it's terrible. We are imposing on them a lot of very bad conditions. And for us, for Israelis, it's a very corrupting system. And that we normalize that it's good to send the best of our young population to the army, and to mainly to control other population, and it's a very corrupting idea. And all the situations bother me a lot during my service.
So during the military, working in the IDF, exactly where did you work? So place, especially in West Bank, or
most of the time we were in the West Bank. I served also in the Lebanon border, in the north, and also in the Gaza border. But I would say that 80% of the time we were in the West Bank, changing places from Hebron, Nablus, Jerusalem a little bit, a lot of places.
Exactly what were doing there? So checking, standing on the checkpoint, or going to the Palestinian home, or something like?
A little bit of everything. A lot of patrolling between settlements, or in determined areas. A lot of arresting, a lot of entering houses and for gun search, weapon search, and a lot of checkposts in the middle of the city, in the middle areas, because we have a lot of ways that Palestinians cannot ride with their car in these ways. We have a lot of common areas where also Israelis and also Palestinians pass in the same way, in the same street. And my service was a few months after the protective edge, in 2014, which was in the summer. And I started a few months later, and I could perceive and I could understand how is the work of the IDF in times where we don't are at war. So in the daily life of the occupation, I would say, it was a quiet time. I didn't had a lot of crazy histories of something from a movie. It was a very quiet period. It was a very regular experience, I would say. But in this silence, I could understand all the mechanism, how everything works. And I didn't like it at all, because I felt that I came here from other place, from the other side of the world. I left my family, I left my friends, my synagogue, my Jewish community, because I really believe in Israel, right? I love this place, I believe in Israel. And what I found in the West Bank was that instead of taking the bad guys and arresting terrorists and really making protection of Israel, I was making protection of settlers. And I was being, in some kind of way, the army is kind of a police. We are making a police work for the settlers inside of these occupied areas. And in my vision, that's completely immoral, and it's not necessarily good to Israel, because I believe in peace. I believe that also Israelis and also Palestinians live here, and we must find a way where we can coexist and live together here. And that's one of my motivations to also to work with with Breaking the Silence and to do what you do.
After how was the work shift in the military? So very hard, or so 12 hours work and 12 hours rest or something?
It really depends where you are,
and
it really depends how many people you have, because sometimes you do something in a regiment level, you do something at the battalion level, so it really depends. But sometimes it's very harsh, yeah. You are always hungry, you are always tired. And in the summer is insanely hot, in the winter is cold, very cold. So the soldiers is also, I believe it's an important part of the analysis to understand that most of the Israeli soldiers, they don't serve in the West Bank. Okay? Only the fighters. And not everybody understands what the reality really is. Because the Israelis that don't go to the West Bank regularly, or that are not familiarized with the situation, they only have this idealization of what the territories means, who really are the Palestinians. So this is one aspect. And the second one is that soldiers, they are mainly 18 years old, 19 years old, so they are very young, and the state are putting under their shoulders a huge responsibility, which is to not only protect the Israeli citizens, but also to control the Palestinian ones. So a lot of situations where it's very hard to use the common sense sometimes, because you are in situations that they're completely not normal sometimes. And also it's something that I believe that in Israel we must stop idealizing and fantasizing about the soldier and what the army do. You know, we must really talk about for what we are sending our young people from Israel to serve. And I think that this relation with the settlers is something that it's also is very complicated, because they are kind of lords of the ground, like they are the lords of the territory, because the settlers, they are under the Israeli law, right? They are Israeli citizens. They have IDs, they have rights, and they are under the democratic rule. And the Palestinians on the territories, they are under military rule, because they are under the military rule. They are under the army controls the territory. The army determines the law, determines the justice system, determines everything almost. And this generates this separation where the settlers sometimes they can be violent, because they have a lot of extremists and violent settlers, right? And they can be violent. They can try to do something, try to attack Palestinians, for example. And a lot of soldiers, they don't know that they are supposed to use the force to stop them also. That they could be arrested, you know, because the soldiers have this, okay, he is doing something bad, but he's Israeli, right? I'm supposed to protect him. And at the same time, if some Palestinian can try something, you know. And so we have these two systems of law. You have two different kinds of how do you call it? Of how to relate to each kind of population depending on who they are. And it's a very complicated situation to put 18 years old to do the dirty work, right? Because they are not the commanders on the ground. There are not the commanders like touching Palestinians and stopping them and in the checkpost, you know. So I believe that's other aspect that Israelis should pay more attention on.
Also, when I went to South Hebron Hills last week, but and I talked to the Palestinian families. They said so settlers coming and cut the olive trees and destroy the houses. So did you talk to the settlers personally? I how can I say? I wonder how their mentality is, how is the education system. Actually, I haven't talked to them. So did you talk to them?
So yeah, because settlers, it really depends. Each settlement in each area, each kind of settlers we're talking about, because we have almost 500,000 settlers in the West Bank, right? It's a lot of people. I believe that if everyone would be violent, we would have a bigger problem, right? It would be worse. But a lot of them, they go to live there because they have a lot of it's cheaper, it's a very beautiful place, it's very bucolic, very how do you call it, very, it's like you are in the Bible, you know. It's a very beautiful place. The West Bank is beautiful. It's a lot cheaper, have a lot of subsidizing, have a lot of investment from the government. So most of the settlers, they are what we call the economical settlers, because they are searching for better conditions of life, bigger houses. You know, in the West Bank, you can buy a house by, I don't know, for the same price you buy a dirty apartment here in Tel Aviv. Like you can you can buy a very beautiful house. And so most of them, of this half a million, they are economical settlers. But in some places, in some areas, in some more extremist settlements, we have more a big religious influence in their political views and actions, and they could get very, very violent. I have this once me and my unit, we were supposed to protect an entrance to Nablus, and by entrance I mean in Nablus we have the Joseph's tomb, right? Joseph from the Bible, from the 12 brothers, and it's a very important place for Jews. But the problem is that this very important place is inside in the second biggest Palestinian city in the West Bank. And if Jews wants to pray there, it demands a huge military apparatus to be in there and to sterilize the area, right? So me and my unit, we participated in that. I believe that was twice, yeah. But in the first time for me it was very shocking because, like, first we closed a full sector of the town, okay, in the middle of the night, and we put we divide all the forces. Each soldier go to their point. We make it clean. Our objective was to make a, how to say, to keep anyone away, that so anyone can get closer and cannot try something. And in the beginning, I was me and another friend in our point where I was supposed to be, and then buses of Israeli settlers start to arrive. So we cleaned the way, and the buses started to come, so they could walk through to Joseph's tomb. And that was a lot of people, right? I'm talking about like 1,000 people arriving to pray there in the middle of the night. Okay, and in the beginning, the first waves of people, they were passing and was quiet, was everything okay. But then suddenly, from the middle to the end, a lot of young guys started to come, religious, very extremist, very radicalized Israeli settlers, and they came to create confusion, to create to make noise, to create a confrontation with the locals. They brought the guitars, they were singing, and also with their drums and things like that. And they were clearly trying to generate a situation to bother them, to wake everyone in their families there in Nablus. And me and my friend, we said to them, there was a group of, I would say, some 6 or 7 boys. They were around 16, 17 years old, I would say, and very, very religious, like dressed and with like a very typical religious Jew boy. And we told them, guys, you cannot do that. You must be quiet. You generate a situation here. We are here to protect you, so stop. And in my mind, I was doing the logical, right? I'm here. I'm the soldier. I'm the authority. I want to bring security to this situation. The civilian cannot do whatever he wants, right? But instantly, I finished my sentence. They started to scream at us, like, so see, I was there to protect them, to make their prayer possible, right? But in the moment that I said to them, no, you cannot make noise, you cannot scream and play your guitar in the middle of the second biggest Palestinian city in the middle of the night, I became, you are the leftist traitor. You came here to protect Arabs, who the fuck you believe you are, things like that. And I was like, I was in shock because, like, mainly because of my story, right? I came from other place. I really believe in this country. I really love Israel. I came to protect you, and now you are attacking me because I'm trying to keep you in order, right? So this is one of the moments that I understood that something was really smelling really bad in this story, and yeah.
So now you're working in the Breaking the Silence. Exactly what are you doing in this organization?
My job, I'm the Jewish Diaspora Educational Coordinator. So my main job is to work with organizations and the Jewish communities around the world. We mainly work with the United States because the biggest Jewish community and the most influential one, and with a lot of connection between the US and Israel is undeniable. But we also work with a lot of communities in Europe. I'm from Brazil, so I'm trying to also to add to bring the South American Jewish communities to the struggle, right? And that's my part of the job, mainly to Jewish communities. Also because I believe that they are completely related with everything that happens here, right? Because everything that happens here in some way arrives in the communities, sometimes in a anti-Semitic way, but sometimes in good way. And also all the Jews in the world, they feel very connected with Israel. When something happens here, they feel, they fear, they are worried. All Jews in the planet, I'd say that they have family here, they know people here, and it's also that these policies that Israel is applying on the West Bank and on Palestinians, it's being made in their names also, right? It's in the name of the Jewish people and the Jewish history. So, in other way, I would say that some settler movements, they use our history and our trauma to justify this, to justify the control, to justify the land grabbing, and to justify their messianic understanding of the reality here, because a lot of settler movements, they are very religion driven, right? They have really messianic, very fanatical sometimes, and that they take this idea that we receive the land from God to the extreme, and in my opinion, this is a very, very dangerous ground to play, because we are very close to nationalism, fanatism, and extremism, and it's definitely not the way that I believe that Israel should be going towards it. Yeah.
So now you have living in Israel over 10 years. How do you think so? How Israeli society changing? So this Breaking the Silence is an advocacy organization. So they are doing a dedicated peace building between Israel and Palestine and try to end the occupation.
Yeah.
But so far, how did you feel? This is a gradually changing, getting better, or not change so much?
It's a hard question to answer because so much stuff happened in the last year, I would say. So much stuff happened in the last year, and I would say that I felt a change since I arrived. I felt a change for mainly to a lot of people going to a more right-wing perspective, more I can say that I felt the radicalization in some sense. How it happened in the 10 years I lived in Israel. And since I arrived in Israel, also we had 5 elections, and all the elections, it was kind of okay. It get worse and worse and worse, and suddenly we found ourselves with this government, the last one that are still in power, and this is the most extremist government in Israel's history, right? They're the most right wing. A lot of ministers and a lot of Knesset members, the parliament members, they were students from the Rabbi Kahana, which is one of he founded a very fascistic right-wing, very nationalist right-wing group in the 80s. He was expelled from the Knesset, from the parliament in the 80s also. But their disciples, they continue his way, and they are in the power right now. And we have all this situation about the judicial overhaul, the changes that this government tried to apply on the judicial system, putting the Israeli democracy in a serious danger, because they are trying to do the same process that happened in Hungary, in Poland, and all these illiberal democracies, what they are called. And we had a year of protests, and we have a lot of political tension, and then everything exploded in October 7, right? So in the same breath that I felt the radicalization since my arriving until today, I felt in the last year that a lot of people here in Israel, they starting to connect the dots, that the policies that are being applied against Palestinians, to control Palestinians and to grab more land from them, are completely related with their policies that are being used to overhaul Israel's democracy, right? They are the same people taking decisions, right? And the people are understanding that these things are related, that we cannot be a democracy in this side of the green line, and to keep maintaining an occupation on the other side. And a lot of people, they woke up to see that those people trying to keep the occupation going, they also want to bring the occupation to our side, to bring the occupation for our side of the green line through the judicial overhaul. So I hope, and I can see some change, mainly nowadays, that the people are start to wake up for this. The people are understanding that why the October 7 happened, why they decided to move troops from the south to protect settlers in the West Bank, right? And people are understanding this. So in some way, I would say that I can see a little bit of light in the end of the tunnel. So with all the pain, also for the Palestinians in Gaza, and also for Israelis, we still have the 136 kidnapped people in Gaza Strip. So with all this pain, we still can find a little bit of optimism.
Yeah.